Srdačan pozdrav poštovani gledatelji Sport Klub televizije. Pred nama je novi tjedan, novi SK podcast. Danas ćemo razgovarati o Tottenhamu, malo i o Tottenhamu i o Dinamu. Imamo zanimljive goste. Prvo moj uvaženi kolega Neven Cvijanović. Imamo novinara beIN Sportsa, Engleza Matta Critchlea. Matt, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Matt, first question to you. Spurs are in great form. Finally, they are playing good. Bale is playing good. How do you see them? They are not conceding goals. They are scoring a lot of goals. It's renaissance, we can say that.
Yeah, they're in good form now, Tottenham, but it's only a recent thing. I mean, if you rewind the clock a month or so ago, there were real questions about Mourinho and Tottenham's form because they had won just one game in six. They'd been knocked out of the FA Cup at Everton by 5-4. They were struggling a little bit, but as you say, in the last couple of weeks, things have certainly improved. I think they've scored 13 goals in the last 4 games. They've won their last 4 matches, qualified, of course, for the next round of the Europa League. And all of a sudden, after 3 wins in the Premier League in the last week, they're just 2 points outside of the top 4. So it's a really fascinating one for Tottenham and Jose Mourinho. Do they prioritise the Europa League? I think that could be their best way of getting in the Champions League for next season. Or do they look again back at the Premier League? Again, maybe 1 month ago, they looked at it and thought, it would be the Europa League. It would be their best chance of winning that competition to qualify for the Champions League next season. Now, all of a sudden, with Liverpool dropping off, Tottenham improving, and just being 2 points behind Chelsea in 4th place, they might look at the Premier League once again, and they may prioritise the game against Arsenal, of course, which is coming up with the big North London derby at the weekend. So it will be one that Jose Mourinho will be looking at. I think he'll play a pretty strong team in the game against Dynamo, but I think the likes of Harry Kane may have to get a rest to keep them fresh for Arsenal at the weekend.
So, Matt, everything that you're saying is pointing that this is probably the worst possible time for Dynamo to play Tottenham.
Well, I suppose in some respects it is because of their form. I mean, we know that Gareth Bale has found form again. He scored 5 goals in his last 4 games. It was a slow start to his second spell as a Tottenham player. I think Jose Mourinho has gone on record and said that he struggles to readapt. It's been a difficult year or 2 for him at Real Madrid. But he's finally finding form. Son is scoring goals. Harry Kane is scoring goals. But I suppose if there was...
Give us some good news. I mean, mate, you're not here, to tell us just about... these wrong stories, these dark times that are in front of us. Tell us something which can be really boosting for us, okay?
Well, I suppose the key thing is that maybe Tottenham take their eye off Dynamo because of their prospects of qualifying for the Champions League through the Premier League. They look and focus too much on the Arsenal game, and they focus on the 4th place. And maybe they take their eye off the Europa League. I mean, I've come up with a good reason why Dynamo could win this game. It's not easy.
Yeah, at least you try to do something, about it. No, I'm joking. But then, as I said, I mean, this is looking just the couple of last results and the way they're playing at the moment. I mean, this is absolutely, as I said, the worst possible time for Dynamo to play Tottenham. Because if this game would happen, like, let's say 2 months ago, I think chances of Dynamo passing through Tottenham will be much more significantly bigger, than it is now. But this is just like looking like really not good for Dynamo Zagreb. Do you think that they will hold on in this rhythm for a couple of more rounds when it comes to Premier League as well? And as you mentioned as well, this is something that we're holding on to, that maybe at the moment Premier League and everything else that is going on in the domestic championships is more important for Tottenham than Europa League.
Listen, we all know that Jose Mourinho is a fantastic coach, and we all know that he really loves winning trophies. So the idea of going a long way in the Europa League, he won it with Manchester United 3 years ago. So he will be right up for this game and right up to this competition. I suppose, as I said earlier, there's a theory there that he may, or the team may, take their eye off this game with the big match against Arsenal and the Champions League. Sorry, the race for the Champions League, the 4th place being perhaps. But Tottenham, just before Christmas time, were in really good form. They went to Anfield and were beaten it, and then from there, they really slipped off for 5 or 6 weeks. I suppose if there is any real hope for Dynamo, it will be that once again their form, Tottenham despite the fact it's really good at the moment, can drop off at any stage. They're an unpredictable side, and if the likes of Kane and Son, he decides to give a rest, the backup players aren't as good. Nicias has come in, of course, line from Benfica, and he's not the same player. He's had problems with Dele Alli now for the past couple of years, who come back into the side a little bit, but haven't really featured too much this year. You can get at Tottenham defensively in the fullback areas. Doherty on one side will probably play Ben Davis on the left-hand side, so Dynamo will look, I think, to get behind them in wide areas. Even the centre-half partnership, we know that Jan Vertonghen left to go to Benfica, so it's Alderweireld or Davinson Sanchez or Eric Dyer, and they're not always fantastic defensively, Tottenham. I think Dynamo, particularly in the second game, I think it's a huge advantage now that Dynamo have a second game in Zagreb. So if they can keep the score respectable, say in the game from the first match in London, Dynamo will find a chance.
You talked about two centre backs, Alderweireld and Sanchez. They are playing now really good. Eric Dyer is on bench. What difference does it make when defense is better? We know, a couple of months ago, Tottenham's defense were not good, and now they are solid. They're okay. Mourinho changes the left and the right half, but the central defenders are Alderweireld and Sanchez. It's really important because of the stability of the team, and in front, Kane, Son and Bale will always score, but defense is really important for Mourinho's team.
Yeah, but one thing we should say is that in the last week we've won 3 games in the Premier League. Those 3 games at home against Burnley, who are not a fantastic side and certainly don't travel very well and certainly don't score many goals. They won away by a 0-0 at Fulham, again a side that are currently in the relegation places here in the Premier League. And they won the weekend against Crystal Palace, again a good side, but not a great side in the Premier League, and not a side that can score many goals. So I don't think defensively in the last week, even though they've certainly improved, I don't think they've been tested a great deal. And you rewind the clock again, maybe 1 month, conceding 5 goals in the FA Cup at Everton is a concern. I don't think they've been great defensively for the past 2 or 3 months, maybe. Very unlike Mourinho, who we know drills his teams really well and gets them defensively very solid. But to concede 5 against a side like Everton, to lose at West Ham, and I think they lost 3 in a row in the Premier League in February, and there were question marks, no doubt about Jose Mourinho, about Tottenham, about the future, were they the right match to go together? Now, results in the past week have put those questions to one side, and all of a sudden, Mourinho, things are looking up once again. As I say, they easily got past Wolfsberger in the last round, and of course, Dynamo, I think, beat Krasnodar to get to this stage. So, it's an even match. I don't think there'll be a huge amount in this game.
Question for both of you guys. You can go first. Where do you rank Dynamo in the Premier League?
Dynamo in the Premier League.
If you can do that, they are the best defense in Europa League.
That's a tough question because first of all, you have to consider Dynamo as a team that is not playing consistently throughout the whole season. So the best Dynamo from, let's say, this season or last season could be somewhere in the middle of the table in the Premier League. Maybe they could do something against the clubs like Crystal Palace, for instance, or I don't know, somebody that is sitting down in a table. But then, on the other hand, if Dynamo is not playing their best, then it could be outside the Premier League table as well. Because sometimes, you cannot compare these 2 leagues. Because in Premier League, every week you have like a bunch of really strong games, competitive games, which are really, really played in a great rhythm as well, and that's not the case in Croatian league. So you cannot compare it. But then on the other hand, as I said, Dynamo, if they're playing at their best, maybe they can play against some of the teams in a lower, let's say, drawer of a Premier League. But then on the other hand, I think when it comes to this game, that Dynamo is not without a chance completely. Tottenham is much stronger team, and Tottenham, if you just look at the lines of Tottenham, in every line, Tottenham is much stronger than Dynamo. But then on the other hand, as Matt already said, you have 2 games. So if something happens in the first one, if Dynamo makes it as a draw, or maybe even if that margin is just a 1 goal, then there is some room for Dynamo to make something in the second game as well. So answer to your question, Dynamo might be somewhere, let's say, in a lower middle part of the Premier League table, let's say, at this point of the season.
Matt, do they underestimate Dynamo? Maybe not just Mourinho and Spurs, maybe English reporters, English journalists, but that's the team that have a couple of national players: Oršić, Petković, Livaković, a couple of experienced players, Gvardiol, really big talent. I think Dynamo is a really good team, but if the Spurs are playing their best team, okay, the Spurs are better, okay, but as you said, if they are maybe underestimating Dynamo a little bit, Dynamo has chance.
I think it's possible that the players would underestimate the strength of Dynamo. We know about Dynamo being top of the league and winning games and feeling confident. I don't think Jose Mourinho is the sort of coach that will underestimate the strength of Dynamo Zagreb, because he is so experienced, has travelled around Europe for so many years and knows how difficult these games can be. I remember watching Dynamo against Manchester City in the Champions League a couple of years ago, and I think Mourinho will look at that game and realise that it wasn't a straightforward match for Manchester City. Dynamo in both matches, okay, they both didn't go in their favour, but they put up a good fight in both games. So I think Mourinho will realise that his side perhaps don't have to be at their absolute best. I don't think he'll pick his absolute strongest side, particularly for the first game, but I think he will pick several of his best players. I think Bale will start. I think Kane will probably get a rest, but I think Son will start. I think he will pick his strongest defensive unit. I think he will look to try to sew up the tie to finish the game in the first match, to give them a rest, in theory, in the second match. So, as I say, I think it's key for Dynamo in the first game. If they can stay in the tie, if they can even come to London and just by a single goal, they would probably be quite happy with that and take them to Zagreb.
I agree with Matt, I have to say. I mean, if Mourinho goes with the absolutely strongest possible Tottenham, then there is not much chance for Dynamo. Let's be honest. I mean,
in 2 games.
Yeah, if you compare these two teams, they're almost uncomparable. So in this case, if Mourinho say, okay, let's go with the strongest possible team, and let's deal with this like it's the strongest game for us in the season, then I think Dynamo's left without too many, let's say, chances in 2 games, especially. But then on the other hand, as Matt already said, I mean, if he's thinking what's coming next after Dynamo, and if he's already set up his mind to think about something that is going on after this game, then maybe Dynamo has some slight chances of doing well in these 2 games, let's say. I mean, I would be, as a Dynamo supporter, I don't know if this is nice to say, because this is running in Croatia and you have lots of different guys, not just Dynamo supporters, watching this. But then, if I may say it from this perspective, I would be happy if Dynamo do well, let's say with some decent results from 2 games, and even if Dynamo's not going through to the next round.
Yeah, but I think the player from Dynamo and the coach, they have good faith for good result, because they know their quality. They have the best defense in the Europa League. They conceded just 3 goals in 8 games. They have quality, and maybe they're hoping that Mourinho and Spurs will not be the best in those 2 games.
You mentioned something as well, underestimating the opponent, which I'm like 100% sure that Mourinho will not do that, because Mourinho knows Croatian players. I was in a room when Mourinho came to pick up to get Luka Modric from Dynamo Zagreb, from national team at that point. I mean, he was in Tottenham at that point, and take him to Real Madrid, and he was really well aware of Croatian players and Croatian side as a national team as well. So I'm like positive that he's not going to do that. Unfortunately for Croatia and for Dynamo as well.
Matt, will it be a great sensation if Dynamo can go through? Will it be catastrophic for Spurs, or if they finish the season in top 4, it will be okay? Nothing big.
Yeah, I think if Tottenham finish in the top 4, clearly the aim is to qualify for the Champions League. That is the main objective for Tottenham this season, having missed out last year and playing in the Europa League. They want to be back in the Champions League. You know, they reached the final, they were beaten by Liverpool, and then all of a sudden they weren't in the competition again. So that was hard for them to adapt to. So the main aim is to get back into the Champions League. But let's not forget, Tottenham haven't won a trophy now in a long, long time, 2008. And that was the main reason that Jose Mourinho was brought into the club, to win them trophies. He is the man. He doesn't always keep everybody happy. He doesn't always say the right things. He doesn't always stay for a long time, 5-6 years, maybe like a Mauricio Pochettino. But one thing he pretty much always does, every club he's been at, is win trophies. I mentioned the Europa League with Manchester United a few years ago. So I think this competition means a lot to him. I think he won it with the UEFA Cup. He won it with Porto many years ago now. But he's spoken about his affection for the Europa League. And I think when you look at the sides that he's played in the group stage against Wolfsburg in the last round, he gives it a lot of respect. I think many people in England and many sides often play a very different team in the Europa League. Arsenal, the case in point, we saw Leicester beaten by Slavia Prague in the last round and changed lots of players. Whilst Tottenham perhaps rest 1 or 2, I don't think you'll see them resting 8 or 9 for this game, and I think that shows the level of respect they have for Dynamo.
Matt, let me ask you something. So I know that you're not completely familiar with Dynamo Zagreb, but then if you would be Dynamo's manager, what would you say to your players coming to London and playing this game? How would you prepare them for the game?
I mean, we know that the coach has lots of experience in the Middle East. He's managed in Saudi Arabia, managed in UAE.
You're well prepared.
Yes.
You did your homework this morning.
But he doesn't have huge amounts of experience in terms of English football, I suppose you would say, facing English opponents. But I think the key thing, as I've said a couple of times, is to stay in the game. I think if Dynamo in London, first match, can put men behind the ball, can be resilient, be difficult to break down, I think it could be a frustrating night for Tottenham. I do genuinely think if Dynamo come and are still in the tie going into the second leg, then they will really fancy their chances of progressing. Let's be honest, if the first leg finishes 3-4-0, it's probably game over. But we know that the ties have been switched round. There's an advantage that goes to Dynamo there. So if they can maybe come away with a 2-1 or a 1-0 result from the first leg, having been difficult to break down, resilient, sit deep behind the ball, because whilst Tottenham are very good on the break and have a lot of pace in Son, Bale, Kane, if you can defensively sit quite deep against them, they're not fantastic at breaking teams down. They don't really have that creative play. As I said, Dele Alli's been out of favour, and the other players play in midfield, Højbjerg, Sissoko, aren't fantastic creative players. So I don't see them creating lots of chances if Dynamo sit a very deep line, defensive line, and try to absorb some pressure. Of course, we know that the quality they have in attack, they're going to score goals, they're going to make chances if Dynamo push up the pitch. But if Dynamo allow themselves to sit really deep, put 2 backs for 4, difficult to break down, then you never know. They can come away with a good result from London.
Yeah, you said something which I absolutely agree, and it's not the only thing that I agree with. It's defense that is crucial thing in these 2 games, I think, especially for Dynamo Zagreb, of course, against players like that.
Stadium will be full. Yeah. Would be full.
Yeah, absolutely. JJ, something else you wanted to ask?
Nothing. Matt, 20 minutes of expertise.
Let me just ask Matt something else as well before we let him go. Matt, we've been yesterday in Manchester derby 2-0 for United. Altogether, I mean, since you're with us, can I ask you, what do you think about the season so far? How do you see it? Is season already done? Is Manchester City new Premier League champion?
It's very hard to think that Manchester City will be the Premier League champions because they've been so good for so long. But this season is just unlike any other season we've ever seen. I mean, you look a few miles down the road from Manchester City at Liverpool, and the collapse that's happened at Anfield is just hard to get your head around. Losing 6 consecutive home matches, having been 68 games at Anfield unbeaten, is just incredible. So Manchester City, yes, will win the Premier League, but we all believe that Manchester City beat Manchester United yesterday, and they couldn't. Manchester United have worked out a way of beating Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium, and they did it again 3 times in a row for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which again is quite ridiculous, really. I mean, you look at a side that won 21 consecutive games, and never there yourself. They didn't look like scoring. I think yesterday Manchester City, I think could have still been playing now, and they wouldn't have scored that particular game. So. The season overall has clearly been massively affected by the pandemic. I think the sides overall that play with emotion, like Liverpool, use the emotion of the crowd, have struggled and suffered. Sheffield United are bottom of the league and had a really good season last year because they play on the emotion of the crowd and they use their home supporters. Liverpool do the same, and they've not been able to play to anything like their level, really, certainly for the last 2 months. A side like Manchester City are technically the best side in the league, and it's like a training game. Every game is like a training game where they can pop the ball around, and that's probably why they've had so much success. But we can't.
You mentioned pandemic. You mentioned pandemic as well. I mean, I'm sure that, let's say, for instance, game like yesterday, and lots of games like yesterday. I mean, if you would have spectators at the stadium, I mean, it would be much easier for Man City to score a goal and not just one. And I'm positive that at least they would catch a draw.
Yeah, with spectators, it's very difficult for us to work out how much a difference spectators make to a team, but we can comment on how much it makes difference to the whole atmosphere and the whole situation at the stadium. We're talking about some of the bigger Premier League grounds, 60, 70, 80,000 people. Now, when you round around it for 4 quarters, you feel that atmosphere, you feel it makes the occasion. Without it, these games are completely different. So I think City would have been different yesterday. I don't think Liverpool lose 6 home games in a row with supporters in Anfield. They didn't lose to Fulham, to Burnley, Brighton. Maybe they home to Manchester City and Chelsea not playing well. Virgil van Dijk without some of their big players. They don't lose 6 home games in a row. So supporters missing has had a huge impact on everybody this year. Probably not necessarily that much, I would say, on top. Never visit there more than I do, but I don't see that stadium as a posing stadium to go to. I don't see it as a particularly. It's a wonderful stadium to look at, but the atmosphere is not like an Anfield or an Old Trafford, I wouldn't say. But you can maybe talk more about.
I have to agree with you absolutely. But then, it's as you know already. I mean, it's much nicer to play in a full stadium, even for Dynamo in games like this. I mean, because it's a special occasion for a team like Dynamo from these lower leagues, let's put it this way, when they come to Tottenham Stadium or Wembley or I don't know, Anfield, wherever they play. It's always nicer to play with spectators in a full football capacity, in a full football atmosphere as well, without hearing yourself, talking on the pitch and things like that. So I think, to conclude, it would be even better for Dynamo if the stadium is full, and maybe that would be something extra for Dynamo as well. To play their best and just say, okay, we're here, we're gonna do best with that we can, and then let's try to do something. Because
we can. Would you say that Dynamo's chances are greater without fans in the stadium?
Greater without fans in the stadium.
I wonder whether no fans, from a Tottenham point of view, may make them a little bit more complacent, may make them feel like it's just another game. Whereas if Tottenham weren't performing and they were playing in this game, the crowd would get on their back.
Yeah, call me crazy, but I think that Dynamo would play much better if the stadium is full, with the spectators, because it's something that is uplifting for Dynamo as well. And of course, I'm sure that in games like this and in this game, you would have Dynamo supporters as well, because it's a huge occasion for everybody that is Dynamo supporter.
A couple of thousand for sure.
And to watch Dynamo over there as well, and they're crazy. I mean, as you know it. So all the Balkans people, and the supporters there are really crazy, and it would be nice atmosphere. So I'm really, really sad that we're not going to be able to watch this game in a full flourish as it should be.
Okay, guys, Matt, nearly half an hour. Thank you for your words, for your expertise. We're not gonna wish you good luck for this match against Dynamo.
Yeah, Matt is not Tottenham supporter, and he will cheer for Dynamo in this one. So
absolutely,
I wish you luck.
Okay, then we are on the same page. It's important. Thank you, Matt, once again, and we hope to see you again soon, and maybe talk again soon.
I look forward to a trip to Zagreb in the near future. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes. Drinks are on me, so for the next couple of rounds when we open pubs and everything else.
We just need a drink from anywhere.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.